Well, first of all, I'd like to thank High's Tackle Box for inviting me over here. I'm Chris Zaldain, originally from San Jose, California. I actually have not been in the state of California for a little over a year now, so it's kind of a homecoming for me. And it feels really good to be back here, especially with this beautiful weather. It's great. And thanks for coming out, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just a little background, I kind of want to talk a little bit about how I qualified for the Elite Series. To me, that's my dream job, fishing the Bassmaster Elite Series. I'd like to get into how I qualified for it, how I'm maintaining, and where I plan to be over the next few years. And I was just like the rest of you guys here. I mean, honestly, I see a couple of my kick boat friends over here. I mean, 10 years ago, I was fishing out of an 8-foot kick boat, and these guys are laughing over here, and that taught me, 10 years ago how to be competitive in the sport of tournament bass fishing. So a little bit of background: I'm 28 years old. I've been fishing the Bassmaster Elite Series Tour for 2 years now. This is my second season. I'm currently sitting 11th in the points overall. Right behind, the big boys, Kevin Van Dam, Skeet Reese, Ike Ellie, all those guys. So it definitely has been a fun last couple years, and I do miss all my California buddies. So again, thanks for coming out. Before I get into like the real specifics and all the equipment I use out there on tour, I just kind of like to talk about just kind of the mindset and the tournament fishing mindset. I know I see a couple of familiar faces here when it comes to tournament fishing. I fished against a lot of these guys over here, and tournament fishing is a lot different than, let's say, going out there fun fishing. It's a lot different than going out there on a guided trip. Tournament fishing is all about getting the bites, put them in the boat, bringing them to the scales, and going back the next day and doing it all over again. So that's kind of what that's kind of my specialty, is going out, making sure I have a limit, and getting back to the weigh-in. So I brought a couple of my favorite baits, from search baits to power fishing, frog type lures, frog punching, and of course a drop shot. I talked to you guys a little bit today about my favorite way to catch numbers of bass, and that's with the drop shot. So let's go ahead and before I actually get to all the raffle items, I'd like to talk about, first and foremost, whenever I go to a lake, let's say an unfamiliar lake, whether it be out here in California, somewhere in the Midwest, Oklahoma, or even out in New York, river systems out there in New York. What I like to look for, depending on the time of year, is active fish. You hear about Kevin Van Dam going out there and finding the feeding active fish. Now, out here in California, there are windows, especially on the Delta, there are windows where fish are actively feeding. Those are the ones that I like to go for. Those are the ones that power fishermen, i.e. Skeet Reese, Kevin Van Dam, those are the fish that you want to go for. Those win tournaments. You don't necessarily want to go out there and drag around and look for spots. You want to find patterns within those feeding fish, and there's no better way to do that, in my opinion, than a square-billed crankbait. And I think we all know bass like to live shallow. This right here is a Strike King KVD 1.5 crankbait, and square bill fishing over the last 2 years, I think, has really taken off. So if you don't own any square bill type crankbaits, you definitely need to check them out. They're non-rattling and shallow running crankbaits. So I mean, the way to attack unfamiliar lake, in my opinion, is you just look for bass cover. Like right now, we're in the summertime. We're a little late behind schedule, but in the summertime, you want to look for kind of main lake, hard structure areas. You want to stay away from the backs of the creeks like you would in the springtime or in the fall, but kind of main lake, hard structure areas, rock and wood is definitely preferred. So what you want to do is literally put the trolling motor on about 30%, or if you're kick boating, put your fins on about 30%, and literally go out there and throw it. You basically want to hit every little ambush point you can. So I mean, if you can, the next time you're in your boat or kick boat, go out there and literally put your trolling motor on a constant speed, 30% speed, and keep your bait moving. I mean, you look at Van Dam, you look at the guys do it all the time. If you keep your bait moving and hit every little ambush point you possibly can, I think you'll be quite surprised in what bites. The fish are very opportunistic, of course, and that is one of the best ways to find active feeding fish. And once you start getting a bite or two, you know, you'll get a bite off a piece of wood that's laid down a certain way. You could almost count on another fish being on the next piece of wood that's laid down the exact same way. So you start looking for patterns within those search bait type scenarios. So again, that's a KVD 1.5 crankbait, and it comes in a variety of colors, of course. My favorite, without a doubt, is chartreuse perch. I had a certain angler on tour turn me on to that color, and it really catches them. It really does. So as far as equipment goes on that, square bill crankbaits, 15 and 20 pound test fluorocarbon is an absolute must. If you got braid on your reels, you know, take that stuff off. You need the strength, the lack of stretch, but you also need that clarity. Fluorocarbon provides that. I like a 15 pound Seagar and VizX or a 15 pound Tatsu. Dean's got the whole line in the shop, and he knows a lot about that line. So great stuff. Again, that non-stretch whenever you're shallow cranking like that is huge. And then a cranking rod, of course. Cranking rods, characteristics of cranking type rods. My perfect scenario for a crankbait rod is a rod that shuts off about halfway through. If it's a graphite rod like this Megabass one rod is here, you want it to shut off about right there, so that when the fish takes those treble hooks, that rod absorbs all the shock, and then boom, it loads up, and you got all the power from there. So it'll load up, and then bam, all your power is converted to that crankbait right there. So I use an old school Shimano reel. Only reason why I like this is it's a 5-to-1 ratio. Again, when you got that trolling motor on a constant speed and you're making those casts and you're hitting all those ambush points, you want to keep your reel moving. That 5-to-1 reel kind of helps you slow down that bait a little more. And when that fish eats that bait, it also gives you cranking power. 5-to-1, I wouldn't go higher than a 6-to-1 reel, but definitely a 5-to-1 with a soft cranking rod. This one's a 6/8, is my preferred choice without a doubt. So that's shallow cranking, and it's a very useful tool when you're on an unfamiliar body of water. Again, the next time you're out fishing, just try it. Do it for me. Put your trolling motor on 30%, go out there and hit every piece of structure that is on that shoreline. Go for a mile if you have to, but you will be surprised and you will learn a lot. You will learn how those fish use those ambush points to attack that bait right there. So definitely give that a shot.
What kind of stuff you throw that square bill in? Do you throw it right through the bushes? Or?
You put that crankbait in 4-wheel drive. You put that thing in 4-wheel drive, hence the 15 and 20 pound test. You pull it over anything that provides cover for those fish. My favorite is riprap. I know if you go around the bridges, Shasta Lake up north, some of these lakes around here, Folsom, whenever you have man-made structure, you'll have riprap rock, which is, you know, scattered chunk rock is what we call riprap. And that's probably the best type of cranking structure you have. There's a lot of it on the California Delta. In and around current, that 1.5 crankbait works really well. But again, rocks, laydowns, hard cover this time of year.